This is a noisy world. Everybody's trying to get your attention, your phone, your fears, your past, your doubts. But let me ask you this. Who's in charge? Your emotions or your choices, your distractions or your direction? Because if you can't master your mind, you'll never master your life. In this video, you won't receive fluffy advice. You'll receive a wake-up call. You'll discover what the winners know, that your thoughts are the architects of your future. And if you don't take control of your mindset, you'll be a slave to your circumstances. Let's begin building your inner power. Let's take the wheel away from fear. Let's train your mind like the weapon it was designed to be. This is how to control your mind. Your mind is a garden. Guard what you plant. That's all there is to it. That simple line contains the key to everything you are and everything you will ever be. Imagine a garden, soil untouched, fertile, waiting. You can plant roses or you can plant poison ivy. The soil doesn't care. We'll give you back what you deposited and multiply. That's your mind. Every thought, every belief, every piece of information you let in, it's a seed. And over time, those seeds develop roots. They become habits, patterns, attitudes, and they eventually determine the course of your life. Now the question is, who's planting in your garden? Are you selecting what to plant? Or are you simply letting whatever comes floating by take hold? Most people don't even think about it. They wake up, scroll their phones, soak up negativity, comparison, gossip, fear. They hear friends who abandon their dreams. They binge on content that celebrates distraction and excuses, and by evening they're wondering why they feel exhausted, why their mind is foggy, why they have no peace, because their garden is teeming with weeds, not by chance, but by neglect. Your mind does not grow by accident. It grows on purpose. And like an actual garden, it requires attention day by day. You can't plant once and leave it alone. You need to show up. You need to weed it out, the negative thoughts that creep in. You need to water it. Feed your mind good books, great mentors, solid values, clear objectives. You need to safeguard it from the pests, the critics, the skeptics, the distractions. You need to be the one who determines this thought remains, that one departs. This belief helps me, that one keeps me back. You've most likely heard the saying, you become what you think about. It's not something that exists just by analogy. It's a law. You go around all day worrying about how difficult things are. And before you know it, you'll find hard things all over. You think about what you don't have, and your mind blinds itself to what you do have. Turn it around. Think about progress, and you will notice growth. Think about gratitude, and you will be at peace. Think about discipline, and you will be unstoppable. The garden always mirrors the seed. No exceptions. Individuals ask, how do I transform my life? And the reality is, you don't transform your life. You transform your mind, and your life will change. The world outside is a reflection of the world within. And if you desire improved results, it begins with sowing improved thoughts. You don't wait for life to get simpler. You strengthen your mind. That's the origin. That's the source. Everything else is simply the fruit. You're the guardian of your mind, which means that you get to control what comes in. You don't have to take in every opinion. You don't have to believe every fear. You don't have to believe every voice that says you can't. Most people handle their mind like a hallway. Open doors, anything walks in. But you need to begin to handle it like a vault. Not everybody gets access. Not every person deserves space. Not every thought deserves energy. Imagine if someone came to your house every day and dumped garbage on your front lawn. You'd kick them out, right? You'd be furious. But some of us let that happen to our minds daily. The news says the world's falling apart. We let it in. A friend says we're not good enough. We let it in. An error whispers you'll never recover. We invite it in. And incrementally, unaware, our inner space becomes toxic, clouded, way down. And we lose the strength we once had. But you can take that gate back, you can wake up, you can stand guard. And whenever a thought comes in, ask yourself, does this build me or does it break me? Does this move me forward? Does it pull me back? Does this align with the person I'm becoming? You'll be amazed at how many thoughts you've let in that don't serve you. And you'll be shocked at the power you feel when you begin to choose what remains. There is strength in thinking on purpose. There is a man who guards his thoughts. He guards his destiny. There is a woman who sifts through her input. She guards her peace. This is not about being positive all the time. It's about being accountable. If you feed your mind garbage, don't be surprised when your life smells like garbage. But if you feed it truth, clarity, wisdom, purpose, don't be surprised when your life begins to flourish. Begin your day being aware. Before the world comes barging in, pause for a second and check in with your brain. What am I thinking about? Where am I putting my attention? What seeds am I sowing today? That pause of reflection could be the most significant minute of your whole day. Because in that second, you reclaim the pen. You reclaim the wheel. You take control. I'm not going to be living on autopilot. I'm going to live by design. It won't be simple. We inhabit a world that benefits from your distraction, that sells your attention, that feeds you fear, urgency, noise. But it means the gatekeeper must be stronger, more vigilant, more disciplined. You don't need to control the world. You only need to control the world in your head. That's your kingdom. That's your duty. And when you do, everything shifts because the world yields to a concentrated mind. Don't spend major time on minor things. One of the biggest traps people fall into is mistaking movement for progress. They're constantly busy, constantly distracted, constantly reacting, but not actually growing. And the reason is simple. They're giving their time, energy, and focus to things that just don't matter. They are spending the currency of their life on expenses that yield no return. And worse, they don't even notice it's occurring because it feels like they're getting something done. But activity doesn't equate to achievement. Busyness doesn't equal progress, and noise doesn't equal clarity. If you want to master your mind, if you want to master your life, you have to cultivate the discipline to ask a very strong question throughout your day. Is this worth it? That one question can change your whole orientation. Is this conversation making me better? Is this work bringing me closer to my vision? Is this thought worth the energy I'm investing in it? Is this issue truly worth the stress it's costing me? When you begin living with that kind of discrimination, you start to separate the signal from the noise. You start to prioritize powerfully. You start guarding your attention as if it's gold because it is. Little things are ubiquitous. They're readily accessible, readily slippable into, readily explained away. Gossiping is a little thing. Complaining is a little thing. Fighting about nothing is a little thing. Mindless scrolling, comparing yourself to strangers on the internet, responding emotionally to minor frustrations. These are all little things, and yet individuals will be enthralled by them for hours, even days, while their objectives languish. Their aspirations are put off. Their vitality is expended on matters that won't matter a week from today. When you learn to manage your priorities, you begin to master your existence. Because your time is finite. Each minute expended on something trivial is a minute robbed from something significant. And big things don't always have to be loud. They don't always have to scream for attention. Growth is silent. Discipline is silent. Vision is silent. But they are the seeds of a powerful existence. And if you don't give them time, if you don't create space for them, you'll become successful at things that don't matter. You'll become successful at achieving things that don't lead to fulfillment. That's a tragedy. Don't let it happen to you. Your brain is wired to concentrate. But in a noisy world, you must fight to concentrate. You must become merciless about your priorities, merciless about your calendar, merciless about your thoughts. Not everything is worth your notice. Not everyone is worth your explanation. Not every fight is your fight. Learn to walk away. Learn to say no. Learn to release things that are costing you more than they're worth, not only in dollars, but in peace, time, and mental energy. And realize this, what you pay attention to grows. So if you pay attention to small issues, they will become bigger in your head. If you pay attention to what you don't have, you'll feel lack. If you pay attention to fear, you'll notice threats. But if you pay attention to your purpose, your expansion, your values, and your vision, your life will begin to move toward those things. Your thoughts determine your direction, and your direction determines your destiny. This is why you must learn to speak better to yourself. What you repeat, your mind believes. Most people don't realize they're having conversations with themselves all day. And for many, those conversations are negative, limiting, and self-defeating. Well, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I always mess up. These aren't just phrases. They're scripts. And the more you repeat them, the deeper they take root. They gradually form into identity. And when your identity is forged out of limitation, your actions will never transcend it. But here's the thing, you can rewire the conversation. You can use different words. You can break the old script and start a new one. Instead of I'm overwhelmed, say I'm in demand and I'm learning to control it. Instead of I always fail, still learning and I'm getting stronger. The words are tiny, but the change is enormous because the mind pays attention and eventually it buys it. The strongest voice in your life is not somebody else's. It's yours. You listen to yourself more than you listen to anyone. So the tone in which you talk to yourself is not merely background noise. It's programming. And if you're criticizing, doubting, and minimizing yourself all the time, you're programming your mind to remain small. But when you begin to feed it encouragement, possibility, and ownership, you create new channels, strength. You wake up confidence. Not phony positivity, but solid, authentic strength. It's not lying to yourself. It's leading yourself. There's a distinction. Lying declares everything's okay when it isn't. Leading declares, this is tough, but I can do it. Lying declares, I don't need to change. Leading declares, I'm not where I want to be, but I have what it takes to grow. Your mind will react to leadership. So begin leading it with clarity, with strength, with purpose. And just like any habit, practice makes perfect. You're not going to flip the switch overnight. But with repetition, the new language becomes normal. The new beliefs take root. And the old scripts, they get quieter. They lose their hold. Because every time you opt for strength over fear, truth over doubt, purpose over distraction, you're training your mind. You're programming it for discipline, for growth, for action. So don't invest big time on little things. And don't let careless words harden into permanent opinions. You are the creator of your inner world. You get to decide what gets repeated. You get to decide what gets deleted. You get to decide what gets rewritten. The way you speak to yourself determines how you live. Because your mind is not just where you think, it's where you create. And creation starts with conversation. So speak in a manner that edifies, that inspires, that carries you forward. Speak like the person whose tomorrow is listening. Because it is. Purpose clarifies your thinking. Purpose focuses your attention. Without purpose, the mind is lost. It meanders, it responds. It clings to distractions, to noise, to whatever is loudest or most pressing. But with purpose, the mind becomes acute. It zeroes in. It blocks out what won't advance the cause. Think of purpose as a compass. It never provides the entire map, but it always points in the direction of true north. It weighs your actions. It makes your days worth it. It says to your brain, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it, and this is where we're going. When you wake up with purpose, your mind does not require motivation anymore. It has direction. You don't wait to get inspired to act. You act because the mission beckons, and with each step you take in the direction of your purpose, you gain more confidence. Your energy level increases. You gain momentum. Purpose fuels progress, and progress fuels the mind. It creates a cycle that energizes you even on the tough days. But conversely, it's true as well. Without purpose, even small obstacles weigh heavy. Even small tasks become meaningless. Your mind begins to ask scary questions such as, what's the point? That's when procrastination begins. That's when doubt starts to creep in. That's when you lose your edge, not because you're being lazy, but because you're disconnected. The mind is an instrument, and like any great instrument, it requires something to be aiming at. Purpose is that target. Now, purpose doesn't have to be some huge, world-changing vision. It can be simple. It can start small. Maybe it's showing up better for your family. Maybe it's improving your health. Maybe it's building something of value with your hands, your voice, or your mind. Whatever it is, it must matter to you. Because when it does, you'll carry it through storms. You'll push through doubt. You'll persevere in the face of distraction, not because you've been told to, but because your heart is at stake. Purpose refines roadblocks. When your mind is grounded in purpose, failures don't defeat you. They sharpen you. Oh, challenges don't hinder you. They ready you. Discomfort becomes a part of the journey, not something to avoid. And that's where true power resides. Not in ease, but in commitment to something greater than your emotions. You can't always dictate your emotions. You can't dictate what happens in life. But you can dictate your purpose. You can get back to it every day. You can structure your calendar around it. You can set your brain up to work for it. And once your purpose is defined, your brain begins to work for you, not against you. Control begins with small, everyday disciplines. Everybody wishes to control their mind in some great decision. But the reality is that mastery doesn't happen from moments. It happens from habits. How you wake up, how you think, how you handle stress, how you speak to yourself when nobody's listening. These little disciplines are the bricks that construct a concentrated, strong mind. Discipline is doing the work when you don't want to do the work. It's not sexy. It's not boisterous, but it's consistent. And that consistency changes the brain. You exercise your mind the way you exercise a muscle with repetition. You don't wake up one morning and suddenly have a tough mind. You build it. You train it. You reinforce the little things over and over so they become habit. When you neglect the little disciplines, your mind wanders back to chaos. It forgets what's important. It creates an opening for excuses, and then those excuses become habits. You begin to justify mediocrity. You begin to settle, and soon you think that's just who you are. But it's not who you are. It's who you're allowing yourself to be. The good news is you can regain control. Now, discipline is not a talent. It is a choice. Anyone can create it, but you must begin. You must say no to ease and yes to work. You must say no to the old narrative and yes to the new one. And each time you do, you dismantle the old way of thinking. You build up the new one. You build a foundation which does not wobble whenever things become difficult. Discipline is freedom. It can feel tight in the beginning, being an early riser, having boundaries, following your plan. But eventually it provides you more choices, more tranquility, more authority. Because the disciplined mind is clear-headed. It does not panic when the going gets difficult. It doesn't follow every whim. It doesn't shoot itself in the foot. It knows how to sit in discomfort and persevere. And the gorgeous part is, the more you practice discipline, the less work it will require. The more you make good decisions, the more naturally they will happen. Discipline becomes identity. And when something becomes who you are, you don't have to think about it anymore. It's automatic. Others observe self-disciplined people and say they must be different. They must have more willpower. But it is not about willpower. It is about systems, habits, clarity, purpose. They've created a framework in their life that reinforces their mindset. And you can too. You don't need to be perfect. You need only to be consistent. Begin with small victories. Get up on time when you promised you would. List your goals. Set a timer and concentrate for 30 minutes. Refuse one distraction. Hold to one commitment you made to yourself. These victories are tiny, but they count. Because every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you're sending a message to your mind. We follow through. We show up. We do what we say we'll do. Sure. At some point, that message turns into belief, and that belief turns into identity. And that identity informs everything. Your choices, your rituals, your outcomes. The disciplined mind turns into an empowered mind. A mind that doesn't merely respond to life, but steers it. A mind that isn't broken by pressure, but delivers in spite of it. A mind that isn't influenced by other people's opinions, but rooted in purpose, directed by values, and energized by daily effort. Your feelings don't need permission to run the show. Train them. Most people think they are things that happen to them. They think a bad mood, a sudden fear, a moment of self-doubt means they're broken or weak. But emotions are natural. They're part of being human. You don't eliminate them. You educate them. You train them like a wild horse. If you don't, they'll run your life. They'll get you wherever they please, whenever they please, and you'll find yourself responding as opposed to constructing. Untrained feelings render you impulsive. They commandeer your attention. One criticism spoils your day. One error makes you feel like nothing. One lag in outcomes leads you to throw in the towel. The mind is a battlefield, and emotions prevail without discipline. But when you train your feelings, you start noticing the feeling. Stop and respond clearly instead of in chaos. You start to catch the pattern before it draws you in. You no longer let short-term feelings make long-term consequences. Training your feelings doesn't make you a robot. It makes you a sage. You know the feeling, but you don't succumb to it. You notice fear, but you still move. You're frustrated, but you talk calm. You're doubtful, but you go on believing. That's strength, not the lack of emotion, but the capacity to act despite it. The greatest thinkers in the world still get afraid, still get angry, still hurt, but they don't drive them. They ride in the back seat, not the front. And how do you train emotions? You begin by recognizing them. Don't flee from them. Don't repress them. Don't deny them. That empowers them. Instead, back off. Watch them. Ask, why am I feeling this? What brought this on? Is this thought even true? When you get into the habit of looking at emotions, you create space between you and the reaction. And in that space, you gain control. Then you need to develop emotional resilience. That is, you need to expose yourself to settings where you push past your limits, where discomfort is certain, where stakes are high. Growth environments develop feelings at an acceleration that nothing else can. The gym, the spotlight, the conversation you've been dreading, the early mornings, the ice baths, the blood, sweat, and tears. It's all purposeful. It teaches your brain how to deal with pressure. It teaches your feelings they don't get the last word. The brain learns through experience. The more you subject yourself to discomfort on purpose, the less control it has over you. You train your nervous system to settle down. You train your breathing to stabilize. You train your thoughts to revert to rational thinking when panic suggests it drive you instead. Over time, the same things that previously frightened you now get you pumped. The same force that used to break you now drives you. Because you've conditioned your emotional state to learn from challenge rather than succumb to it. And last, train your emotional narrative. That's the story you carry around about who you are and how the world works. If your emotional narrative is, I always get overwhelmed, or I'm not good under pressure, or I can't handle stress, then however hard you try to tough it out, your mind will revert back to that narrative. So rewrite it. Talk better about yourself, even when you're not doing so great. And the narrative of a person who's learning, who's growing, who's coping with more each day. Your brain is listening. Your identity changes, and your emotional reaction is next. A disciplined mind creates an unstoppable life. When your emotions are conditioned, when your actions are in purpose, you're the type of person that's difficult to derail. Life still issues obstacles, but you deal with them in a different way. You don't freak, you don't shatter, you don't crumple. You evaluate, you adjust, you advance. That's the strength of a conditioned mind. It provides you inner tranquility without requiring outer convenience. Most individuals live their lives governed by something external to them. The economy, social media, other individuals' opinions, their past errors, or their present fears. They are being yanked and pulled in a million different directions like a leaf on a windy day, waiting for one day life will settle down and provide them with direction. But that direction doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It comes from mastering your thoughts, leading your emotions, and committing to the discipline of personal growth. An unstoppable life is not one without problems. It's a life where problems no longer define you, where adversity becomes a classroom, where setbacks are data, not definition, where you stop needing motivation because you've built systems, values, and a mindset that moves with or without perfect conditions. That's when the real momentum starts. That's when others stare at you and wonder how you manage it. But it's not magic, and it's not luck. It's focus. It's self-leadership. It's the behind-the-scenes work you've done in your head that no one else gets to see. A mind that is controlled does not imply an excellent life. It implies a guided life. You get to choose what is important. You get to choose what you believe. You get to choose how you react. You arise each morning with the authority to build, to create, adapt. You no longer wait for the world to grant you permission to be powerful. You acknowledge that it has always been yours. It's simple to glance around and believe other people are gifted, more gifted than you, with more time, more resources. But they lack your mind. That is your strength. That is your power. And when it is trained, when it is protected, when it is disciplined and focused, there is little in this world to keep you back. Outside obstacles shrink. Internal excuses release their hold. You begin to move ahead, not because circumstances changed, but because you did. You are the type of individual who wakes up early, not because it's cool, but because you have work to do, a mission to accomplish, and others to serve. You decline distractions, not because you're dull, but because you're constructing. You have standards for yourself, not to impress others, but because your life demands to be extraordinary. That's what a self-disciplined mind constructs. It constructs a life with system, purpose, and purpose. And the best thing is, this kind of life is open to anyone. You don't have to be the brightest. You don't have to be from success. You simply need to choose that you're finished living on the whim of emotion, on the trigger of impulse, and on the distraction of stuff. You choose to take control of yourself. To exercise your mind like an athlete exercises their body, with repetition, with intention, with purpose. With time, you make that choice a habit. That habit turns into a system. That system becomes your life. And that life becomes a force that no obstacle can hinder. Managing your mind isn't about making like your perfect choices. It's about sowing the right seeds daily. Your mind is a garden. It doesn't discriminate about what it grows, so you should. Protect it. Shield it. Water it with intent and discipline. You are the gatekeeper. Nobody else controls what comes in. You don't have to buy every fear. You don't have to believe every limiting thought. You don't have to take on the chaos around you. You can choose clarity. You can choose strength. You now know the truth. Don't waste big time on little things. Your time is a currency. Spend it where it matters. Talk back to yourself with strength. Whatever you utter, your mind accepts. Recondition your inner dialogue so it matches your future. You realize purpose provides direction. When you wake up with a purpose, the noise disappears. You don't need motivation. You do what needs to be done because the goal is important, and you know control is established by tiny daily disciplines. It's the early mornings, the quiet reps, the choices nobody notices that develop the strength everyone observes. You know your emotions don't lead you. You lead them? Feelings emerge, but they don't make decisions. You do. That's actual strength. And you now understand that a mastered mind creates an unconquerable life. No more wandering. No more explanations. It's time to lead yourself, create focus, and conquer from the inside out. This is not theory. This is your next step. If you own your mind, you own your future. And no one, not your past, not your failure, not your fear, can take that authority away from you. Control your mind, or it will control you. Motivate it. Don't wait. Dominate.